Dennis McDonough is the chief of staff for the White House. He was on every Sunday morning show, blanketed the airwaves, and he was trying to convince us that we have enough evidence. He has done the exact opposite. Let's show you one clip here.
He said at one point in the interview, if the United States has the evidence, show the evidence.
Well, you've seen these terrible videos, Bob, and others have seen these terrible videos, and I hope that every member of Congress...
You're saying that's evidence enough.
I'm saying that I hope every member of Congress looks at those videos before he or she makes up his or her mind on how they're going to vote on this resolution. Because to hold him accountable for this terrible action, we need Congress to vote yes for that resolution.
Now, that's Dennis McDonough, of course, responding to what Bashar al-Assad said in the interview with CBS, saying you don't have enough evidence. And he says, just look at the video. Oh, boy. That makes me go in the opposite direction. Because the video shows that there was a chemical weapon attack. It doesn't show who did it. If that's your best evidence, well, look, there was an attack. Well, we already know there was an attack. That isn't the question. So that's horrible evidence as to who did it and why we should attack the regime. It gets much, much worse. He also said in one of the shows that the administration lacks, quote, irrefutable, beyond a reasonable doubt evidence. It lacks it. It lacks it. Well, I'm not going to go to war if you're your top, salesperson for this. The White House chief of staff comes out and says, no, we don't have it. We don't have irrefutable, beyond a reasonable doubt evidence. Well, before we go to war or we send Tomahawk missiles or B-52 bombers or whatever else, other things that we said, I would like that. I would like really, really solid evidence. Not a maybe. It only gets worse from here. He also said, look, this is not a court of law, and intelligence does not work that way. Okay, but I'd like you to have some intelligence. I'd like to have at least a good degree of certainty at the very least. And you could make an argument that this is more serious than a court of law. Court of law involves one person, guilty or not guilty. Now, that's very important. But we're talking about a war here. We're talking about when we do the bombings, even if we get the right guys, the bad guys, we're talking about hundreds of deaths, maybe thousands of deaths, not just one case. I think it should be better evidence than in a court of law. And obviously, by their own admission, they don't have it yet. It gets worse. Now, McDonough had said, well, look, we gave the evidence to the Congress people, and you saw him say that in that clip there, and they all agree that we have enough evidence. Well, it turns out it's not really true. Representative Justin Amash from Michigan, he's a Republican, says, quote, the evidence is not as strong as the public statements that the president and the administration have been making. There are some things that are being embellished in the public statements. The briefings have actually made me more skeptical about the situation. Now, look, this is bipartisan. There's a lot of Democrats who are also expressing doubt about it. But I'm going to give you one more Republican here, Buck McKeon from California, and he says, they haven't linked it directly to Assad in my estimation. And he says, he thinks that they think Assad probably did it. You're going to go to war on probably? Especially after what we did in Iraq? That's insanity. Look, even if you think, my God, we have to help the people of Syria, and you think the regime likely did it, come on, even you've got to concede this is not good enough evidence. Look, I'm inclined in the direction of helping, but I've got to have good evidence that they did it. No, this is totally unacceptable. I'm telling you, at every step of the way, it gets worse. So then, speaking of which, we go to back to Dennis McDonough, and he says about his evidence, the material, referring to the weapons, was delivered by rockets which we know the Assad regime has, and we have no indication that the opposition has. Oh, for Christ's sake, that's the best you got? It was delivered in a way that we know that they have, but we don't think the opposition has a way of delivering it. This might be worse than the Iraq evidence. And remember, the Iraq evidence was, of course, a disaster. Probably, we think, we don't have it beyond a reasonable doubt. All right, wait till you get a little last two quotes. He also said, well, look, this is the common sense test says he is responsible for this. He should be held to account, talking about Assad. The common sense test? There's no common sense test. That's basically saying, I don't have it, I don't have it, I don't have the evidence, but come on, it was probably him. That's common sense. No, that's not common sense. They don't have it. We definitely should not go to war. We should not drop bombs. And yes, dropping bombs in another country is by most definitions an act of war. Even if you don't think it's an act of war because we've changed the definitions, we still shouldn't do it. You don't go based on this BS. Finally, Secretary of State John Kerry, who's been beating the war drums louder than anyone else, also says, when asked about the evidence, quote, "The evidence speaks for itself." Well, what in the world does that mean? That means I don't have it. I don't know. Look at the video. That looks really bad. I know, John. I know, McDonough. It looks really bad. The question is, who did it? It's like you put on a case and you say, look at this grisly murder. Okay, I agree with you. That's horrible. So obviously that guy must have done it. That's not obvious at all. It's your job to prove that guy did it. Otherwise, we're going to go and put the wrong guy in prison, or we're going to execute the wrong guy. And here, you haven't made a case at all that we've got the right guy. Not good enough, not remotely good enough. Don't drop a single bomb.